live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Sensual Goat, Eli, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server, so welcome one and all.
How are you?
I'm all right. Very good. How are you? I'm good. I'm feeling good. Oh, well, I'm pleased to hear it, Neil. Jolly good. Good start to the show. Nice that we're getting responses when we need them, when we first start live.
Well, I asked you, how are you?
I'm very well,
fine.
Neil. I'm very well. I'm very good indeed. I've spent a week with this here Rode Procaster. I've bought a couple of these, so if I do a podcast in the future with my daughter, I've got a couple of dynamic mics to use and do them with. So you may see this mic in the future, you may not, but I've spent a week using it, so I know how to use it. So I'm familiar with it when I come to set it up, if I set it up in the future. Now that I'm rounding down the amount of mics I sell and the book's getting ever closer, I'm just looking to buy things that I want to keep, you know. And this is one of them. So I've bought pop filters, I've bought shock mounts, and I've bought 2 boom arms so that I can actually set them up from underneath rather than over the top like this arm is. Pain in the ass that it is, blocking my view of my monitor. But when it is seen again, if it is seen again, it'll be on the end of a floor stand mounted microphone boom arm for my daughter and I, both with identical setups. So there you go, that's when it might come up in the future, but after a week of use, I'm now actually comfortable using it and confident that I could do a good job with it and make everything sound audible when it gets used again in the future. So there you go. So this will get put away at the end of today's show. You won't see my giant monstrosity of a Rode Procaster with its shock mount after this show, or at least not on Flat Earth Debate, because there's no need for me to use a dynamic mic. This is a fully treated room. I want the shotgun mic so I can be expressive if I'm on camera, as opposed to this thing where I have to say join the show with the link below this camera view because the mic's in the way, because it's a hulking great big thing. I mean, I don't know how people cope with having giant great big dynamic microphones. I get why they do it. They don't want to hear the sound of their room. I mean, that's nonsense, but there we go. That's why people do it. They're told that you can get rid of room acoustic problems by having a mic right on top of you, which isn't true. You can just do that with a condenser mic, just get it closer and turn the gain down, get the signal to noise that we talk about frequently at the moment in terms of our signal being the flat earth measurement signal, and the noise, that is this shillery garbage waffle that comes out of the ether spewing crap munching tossers that we have to face, also labelled flat earthers in our beloved arena. So unfortunately, yeah, signal to noise at the moment is getting better. I mean, Neil was in the pre-show moaning that he would like it to be the case that all of the nonsense wafflers and their perceived penetration throughout YouTube was just us and our talk about flat earth being measured flat. And it isn't. But, you know, that was a kind of false impression that's created by like these sleepers that are ready to come out and say Earth's a ball at any moment and, you know, cast down any decent arguments that we've been putting forward for the last 10 years. So they're never going to, you know, give the benefit of the algorithmic love to anybody that's not under their control, it would seem. You know, how else would you get people like Big Ball Dave and Jaron and Globebusters to talk about ether spin and how Earth's not a ball constantly, rather than how we currently do with Earth measurements and decent arguments that overcome those things that, as I say, have been shot down and braced against for the last 10 straight years.
Yeah, well, don't you remember when you went on this little campaign and going with the front foot forward? It's like we went ahead with it, but it wasn't like you were the Pied Piper.
Yeah, well, we would claim to be liars and all sorts of things, and from our own side, just bizarre. We're talking about science and the scientific method, and the people on our own side are saying these people don't know what science is and are liars. Like, what the hell? We've just spent months learning about this stuff so we can put it into the context of flat Earth and educate our audience on how they've been deceived. And then we get our own side telling us, well, now we know why, don't they? They're the same people who say, oh, it's a ball after all, I was wrong. You're like, yeah, the same people that were claiming we were, that's the word, scammers. No, we're not. Yeah? Anybody who's come back to me since then, just leave a comment below. Were you one of the people that departed from Flat Earth debate because you were told that we were scammers? And then you come back and what we talking about when Jaron's telling you Earth's a ball? About how it's measured flat in Antarctica by him. And every person that was down there measuring it. Shocking, isn't it? Yeah, you might have been told that we were scammers. We're not. But that's what people who are going to scam you project onto anybody who's trying to sway you off the scammer. In other words, if you have a loved one pointing out that you're getting scammed by a scammer, what do you think the scammer says? Nah, your family don't love you. They're the ones trying to con you. That's what you get told by the scammer. And in this case, that was Jaron telling his audience that we were scammers. Why? Well, because we're putting good flat Earth arguments forward. And he's primed to come out and tell you all it's a bull because he's been to Antarctica and measured Earth flat for 24 hours. What the hell? Yeah, there's a good reason he braced against every single decent argument we ever tried to put to him and get him to understand. And in some cases, even after he braced against some of the arguments like the Black Swan, he still used them when he wanted to condemn somebody like Brenda. Anyway, that's what shills do.
But don't you understand, Nathan? Earth's just like a Home Depot.
Earth is like Home Depot. Yeah, that's Jaron's way of saying, yeah, he knows Earth's measured flat. By the way, Home Depot, as much as we take the piss out of it, that's Jaron saying, yeah, it's a big ball. What's that mean? It means we measure Earth flat. Like you'd measure a flat Home Depot? Yeah, that's because we measure Earth flat. Jaron knows Earth's measured flat. Like you'd measure a Home Depot flat. But we just don't understand really big balls. That was his departure while he was still a flat Earth. That was his rhetoric. While he was still a flat Earther, sorry. That was Jaron's rhetoric. His outgoing flat Earther rhetoric. You're like, what? Seriously? Home Depot? Big square flat Earth sections being measured? It's just big flat sections of Earth being measured. Yeah. So if it was ever the case that Jaron and I were crossing paths in the future, having moved back onto the ball, I'd say, you know Earth's measured flat too, don't you? Right? Earth's like a Home Depot. That's just his way of saying Earth's measured flat. That's all that is. Because it is. Measured flat, that is. Earth,
Locally.
that is. Like a Home Depot, that is. Dead? Was that Eli?
No, it was me, sorry. I said locally.
But locally is everywhere, ever, if you're measuring it. You can only measure locally. Now, locally might be 5,400 miles, nautical miles, right? Well, yeah, it could be if you're measuring GP distances. Yeah, from you to the other side of that circle is massive. Okay, well, that means your local 5,400 miles is flat, if you want to call it that. But that's just there.
Just ask Simon
Get out of
Dan.
jail, incoherent, get out of jail free card. Oh, it's just locally flat. What, the measurements of Earth? Yeah, I know. Yeah, Earth's measured flat. Locally. Everywhere, always. Measured flat. And that's how Earth's measured. Yes. What's that? It's just local. It's fine to measure Earth flat. It's a really big ball. You can believe that if you want. But I'll just take the first bit. Earth is measured flat. By everyone, always, without exception. Now, you, the incoherent idiot baltards, you can tell yourself that because it's measured flat, that means it's a really, really big ball. Okay. You can also tell us we don't understand how, when measuring Earth flat, that actually means it's a really big ball. You can tell us that if you want. I won't be listening anymore. Yeah, I don't care. Because Earth's measured flat. We figured that out quite some time ago. Everyone measures it that way.
That's all you say, Nathan. That's all you've got, mate. This measurement thing. I mean, have you got nothing else to go the proof? I was just sick of hearing it, mate.
Do you want a little magic trick to go with it? Do you want maybe a little card trick? I've heard that too. People say, that's all Nathan says. He just says Earth's measured flat. Okay. So would you prefer I said Earth is Maybe change the tone. Earth is measured flat. Now a card trick. What more do you want? Yeah? You couldn't get any more conclusive. Is it flat? Well, that's how we're measuring it. Well, maybe it isn't. Well, none of the measurements work then. Yeah, it's called the rock and hard place. Either you accept that Earth is measured flat, because it is, or you deny that you've got any Earth measurements, because Earth's measured flat. But that's all I've got. That's all I need. It's simultaneously the reason I'm telling you, get lost. I don't care what you think anymore. Yeah? Well, Earth's like a Home Depot because it's a really big ball. Let's break that down. Earth's like a Home Depot. What does that mean? Earth's measured flat. Yeah, it is. Yeah. What's that? Locally. Okay, yeah. Locally, Earth's measured flat. Yeah. What's that? There's negligible ball curvature over the locally flat measured bit of Earth. I mean, I don't know why you're talking about curve. We're measuring it flat, but fine. If you say there's negligible curvature when we're measuring it flat, then I don't really know why we would be talking about anything negligibly not being measured, but you be you. What's that? Oh, I don't understand that when we measure Earth flat, it's because that negligible curvature isn't being considered, but on bigger scales that we don't measure, it's measured ball-shaped. No, it isn't. We've got Earth curve mathematics that also measure Earth flat at surface level. So no, there aren't any big ball measurements. There's just the flat ones. All of them. So is that all I've got? Oh, my bad. And now I'll pull something out of my sleeve. I don't. What more do you need? You need more than me telling you how it's measured. Nah. What it needs is us, that's flat earthers, perceived, and you, that's ball-tards, otherwise known as anti-flat earthers, to argue about how Earth might or might not be ball-shaped, like negligible curvature over the flat Earth bit that we measure, but while we both simultaneously accept that Earth is measured flat. So you'll say, well, Earth's measured flat at surface level for me to create a distance to a geometric horizon that blocks boat and building at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's measured height off a flat Earth. So that we're understanding that our globe Earth maths, contextually me being a ball-tard in this example, so long as we accept that there is a surface level to measure for these claims of Earth's sphericity, you just need to accept that Earth gets measured flat also, but then tell me that they don't match how far we'd see based on an extrapolation after a flat Earth measurement that says that we'll see this far to the boats and buildings that get blocked. You need now tell me as a flat Earther that no, we see too far. As long as we both accept that Earth gets measured flat in the first place, then we can whistle past the facts that Earth's measured flat. But when I point out that, oh, well, Earth's measured flat, who cares? What I get from the ball-tide side is, well, is that all you got? Surely you need to measure Earth flat, turn those flat Earth measurements into a ball, create a distance to a geometric horizon to block boats and buildings, and then tell me how it's too far so I can tell you it isn't. Because that would be a lot more substantive than you just saying, well, Earth's what it is. It's measured flat. Therefore, it's measured flat. There's no real contention. Oh, you don't like that. You don't want it to be flat. The Earth, that is. Well, what are you going to use as measurements? Oh, you're still happy to use the flat ones? Well, then Earth's measured flat. I mean, that is all I've got. You're right. You know, I mean, maybe if you don't like it, you could do what Simon Dan did and say, Nathan's wrong. So what I'll do to show how wrong Nathan is about Earth being flat is measure it 1,000 plus times with surface level being a requirement for the measurement. Now that is the kind of flat Earth measurement that you can really get behind when you want to believe that you're on a ball. Maybe you can claim that that's part of the ball measurements. The flat Earth prerequisite surface level part of your elevation angle measurement that you measured off a flat Earth, you can say that makes your ball. If you're insane, we're not, we know it's measured flat, but apparently that's all we got. I mean, I'm really sorry. If you're disappointed in Earth just being measured flat, and then I'm sorry, I mean, I will work on my magic act that follows it, you know, because it's a bit drab, innit? You know, I'm on stage. Hi, Nathan Oakley. Yes, thank you. No, the applause can wait. Yes, it's okay. It's all good. Thank you. Stop. No more applause. Thank you. Earth's measured flat. Right, well, I'm out of here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. What, you want more? What? Well, I mean, I have worked on pulling this rabbit out of this here hat. I mean, I've got that. I mean, if you want to pick a card, Meanwhile, Earth's still measured flat. Oh, what? You don't like that bit of the act? You want to tell me that it's not flat? Oh, right. Maybe you could go measure Earth flat 1,000 times to prove me wrong. Yeah? Well done, Dan. Yeah, your flat Earth measurements of the sun 1,000 times really showed me how little I've got when you measured Earth flat too. I mean, that's not really good enough. I mean, surely I should be taking those 1,000 flat Earth measurements and suggesting we've derived sphericity from them. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to take the flat Earth measurements that we measured. I'm good with those, right? Yeah, because then it's just measured flat. You don't want them to be measurements. You don't want them to be angles anymore, like part of the angle being the surface level. That's prerequisite part of the elevation angle that Dan measured 1,000 times. You don't want them to be elevation off the surface and that. Okay, well, then you've got no measurements. Oh, you like them, the flat Earth measurements. Yeah, that's okay. You can use them. Dan, that is. The ball-believing Simon Dan. You can use those flat Earth measurements. He's got my permission. But you, the flatties, don't think it's enough. Then you're stupid. Is that not clear? My sarcasm can end now. Just get to the punchline. You're thick. If you don't understand that Earth being measured flat is all you'll ever need to absolutely bitch slap the living daylights out of any clown that says otherwise. And when those retards, this is Simon Dan, say that Nathan's wrong, they'll prove me right 1,000 times over with their own measurements. That's what they'll do with the Earth being measured flat rhetoric. It means that my opponents are literally beating themselves in the face thousands of times over. Yeah, this is Dan. This is the actual reality, no sarcasm. Dan's measuring Earth flat thousands of times. TFE is measuring Earth flat. That's what we've got. What's our response to TFE? You measured Earth flat. What was their response when we told them that? Where are the guns, Nathan? That was literally the response to them having the fact that they're measuring Earth flat pointed out to them. So, if that's not enough, maybe I should have picked up that red herring and deflected to the guns. No need. The Chilean government escorted a man away at gunpoint 6 months after they were there measuring Earth flat. But they still measure Earth flat. Again, Neil, was it Neil? It wasn't. It was Sensual, wasn't it? Yeah, hearing this is amusing to me. Not enough. What else do you need? Answers on a postcard. I'll file them in R for Arrivederci.
It was one deck.
Yeah, it was me, Nathan, but it's very telling, isn't it? Because, this is what they're saying now. Nathan is only talking about the measurements of flat Earth. And that, to me, is very telling that they are realising that, like you say, there is no debate anymore. We're not talking about any nonsense. It's all come down to the actual measurements, and that's all we're talking about. How Earth is measured flat. And they're like, oh, Nathan's not talking about anything else anymore. You know, what we're going to do? We're just talking about the actual measurements measured flat. So, very telling.
Yeah, people don't want a conclusion. That group of people, as I say, has been created out of complete numbskulls. I mean, generally speaking, I'm sorry, you're not going to like this. I'm probably going to lose subscribers over it. I despise your average flat earther. I think most flat earthers are complete retards because they present themselves as such. Karen B was on our show yesterday. She presents herself as a complete and utter retard. She believes in Bigfoot. She's a shit-for-brains retard. There's no other way to describe her. That's what she is. Now, most flat earthers are that because they've been brought into the fold through YouTube algorithmic enablement. That's how they've got here. Now, I can't deny it. I found myself on the same idiotic conspiratard path when I found my way to Math Powerland. We discussed him in the pre-show. How wonderful he is too. But I was here looking at conspiracy subjects like subliminal messaging and psychopathy, narcissism. And then you find your way to flat earth. Now, potentially, I could have been just another conspiratard idiot on that path, waiting to be shown demonstrably to be idiotic, just like Karen. But I'm not that person. My vague interest in these conspiracy subjects may have led me to the fact that Earth is measured flat, but I haven't represented myself as your average flat earther, the people I generally despise. The people I've braced against ever since I've got here, starting with Jesse Spots 10 years ago, talking about clone centres and Mandela effect. Immediately irritated me for being a charlatan bullshitter like most flat earthers. Now here we are 10 years later saying, Earth's measured flat. It was never very complicated. Now, there's going to be this group of people in this pond, including but not limited to Simon, Dan, Craig, all of you people. You're all in the same pond with us. This group that's presented as being flat earthers. You're part of the same group, the Dans and the Craigs, yeah? Now, that group is completely separate from normie society, yeah? They're something else. Now, eventually, they will go, we, collectively, the general populace, knew it was flat all along. And when they do, the ring that it comes with will be a ring of Earth is measured flat. Because oftentimes the most simple explanation for things is what permeates the masses. It's not the complicated arguments about reference frames. It's not the complicated arguments about bullshit beliefs in ether. It's not the complicated arguments about the stars, which have nothing to do with the surface, unless, of course, you're measuring the surface level with them, as we've navigated and charted the world. Flat. So it boils down to how simplistically the general population can accept this as having been the case all along. And what do you know? It's not that I need the general populace to accept this belief as having been the case all along. It is the case. And it was always being measured flat by everyone, always. I recognised this a couple of years ago when I explained celestial navigation to my sister, forgetting a large chunk of my life where a loved one died, subsequently getting blocked out of my life, my sister's husband. Now, he and her owned boats and had to train in celestial navigation. So I'm preaching to the converted, my sister, about how it's a flat earth proof. And she already knew. Like anybody who's measured Earth ever, she knew it was measured flat. So at that point, you recognise the simplistic, awful truth of what people like my sister, a normie, recognise when they deal with Earth. There's no complicated transition into a new belief, unlike the attempted transition from reality to a heliocentric worldview, which has taken place over the last 300 years. It's a short-lived religion. People don't recognise how short-lived heliocentrism will have been, past future tense, when everybody in the normie society surrounding us in this tiny little pond starts saying things like, of course it was flat. That's how it's measured. Yeah? You might be the Dan, Craig, or, if he was still a flatty, Jaron, in this pond, trying to make it complicated. But it's failed. The world has and will always be measured flat. That won't have any alterations in the mind's eye of any normal people listening to this. Now, it might be someone else that gives them the message. It might not be me. It might be Dan telling 1,000 people to go out and measure surface level for an angle. But who cares what they do? It's never going to change. The truth will out. But heliocentrism and its control purposes are here for now. Short-lived though they will be in the future. But they won't be here forever. Why? Because you can't hide the truth when it comes to measurements. The truth is we measure Earth flat and always have. So it might not be enough if you're in the pond. That's the point here. But to every other normal member of the Flat Earth Measuring Society, they will be capable of accepting this as though it was always true, because it was always true, in spite of their heliocentric religion, which hasn't been around for very long.
Yep, like you say, it was the Greeks knew that 2,000 years ago. That's their example of measuring Earth flat. Al-Biruni measured the Earth flat, and even in the so-called Earth curve calculator, it shows and describes how Earth is measured flat using eye level and surface level parallel to each other, and obtaining a depression angle between them 2 points. There's never any evidence or suggestion of curvature within the curvature position.
All you do is talk about Earth being measured flat one day. All you do.
Well, we can ask the question: is it spherical?
The gyroscope would tell us.
Yes, there's been a potential suggestion of discussion or debate about what gyros do. Now, again, we've gone through these processes many times. The cycle gets shorter and shorter each time. The actual use of gyroscopic motion is to retain horizontal planes of reference in avionics. That's what it's used for. Now, from this point forward, I've said it on many of the shows, I couldn't give a crap what you dig out from people. That's to say, when people say, no, actually, gyroscopes are self-correcting, Earth's spherical, I'll go, really? Because that's not what they're being used for, and that's not what they're measuring. Now, I've made this laboured point quite a few times on recent shows, but as far as anybody in avionics is concerned, they just want to avoid death. Yeah? There's no two ways about what a gyro does and how it's being used. Now, if you want to tell me in the text that what's measured in the measurements isn't what's really measured, then, without labouring the point, you can take it up with the people who use the measurements, not me. Now, they're not going to respond. They don't care. They're just going to use the measurements. And the measurements are flat. And how they're acquired is with useful tools in avionics to retain horizontal planes of reference. These detailed mathematical acquisitions are required to fly in straight and level flight. And nothing needs to be altered when you look at the flat Earth affirming avionic data. Every part of what they describe to fly in straight and level flight is axiomatically tied to a flat Earth. There's no getting away from this stuff. There's just verbiage from idiots who want their sphere belief to somehow comport with Earth being measured flat. And it never will. All you'll ever have is words. But the measurements, they're in. Earth's measured flat in every single measurement ever. But you can feel free. You can believe that we've self-corrected out the curve that isn't being measured in the measurements. You can believe that all you like. I don't care what you believe. And if it's based on something you've read, oh, right, it's from the NTSB say gyros self-correct from curvature. Oh, really? Is that what they say? Really? That kind of defies the axiomatic principle of the gyroscope and its measurements here with respect to the horizontal that it's retaining. That's what it's used for. What's that you say? No, they drift. They do if they're broken.
It's not what it shows in the pitch data.
Yeah, it's not what it shows when they're measuring Earth. But like I say, I don't care. I'll just laugh at them now. Because they think that there's a debate continuing. I don't care anymore. You can come and start telling me, I'll probably agree with you. You want me to believe that I don't understand how it's been corrected. Okay. Yeah. Give me your words.
Nathan.
They did it with, sorry, Brian.
Come on, Dick, I'll go after it.
Sorry, quicker. They did exactly the same thing and still do with celestial navigation and elevation angles. You know, they used to say, but it only works on a globe. You know, they just come out with this nonsense. It can only work on a globe. Well, the tool that we're using is actually designed to measure elevation angles. That's what it's designed to do. How does it work on a globe?
More accurately,
it's designed to measure elevation angles.
More accurately, it can't work on a globe. I remember Rumpus saying that 7 years ago. Sextants only work on a globe, end quote the Rumpus. Actually, no, they can't work on a globe. They're acquiring elevation angles off surface level. So no. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, there's a massive contradiction, you see. This is what happens. The ballrunners always come at us with supposed arguments, but they're always in a vacuum. As I said before, they focus on 6 and forget about 7 and 8. When it comes to the pendulous swings, which are part of the back of a gyro system that's powered through the movement of air and vacuum, when it comes to them, they try to claim that they're correcting for cause, right? This is what they're trying to claim. When it comes to the mercury switches, right, which is the gyro that's spun not by air, movement of air, but spun electrically, they're trying to claim that it's correcting away from cause to horizontal. So they're two opposing, 180 degrees opposing planes. One is supposed to be correcting for cause, the other one is correcting away from cause to horizontal. This is what, do you understand what I mean? This is how ridiculous it is. Like they're not even paying attention to their previous claims. So one is proving the cause, the other one is taking it away from the cause. Yet the two systems are there for the exact same reason in aviation, just on two different gyro power systems.
And
One gyro is spun with air, the other one is spun with electric.
that's a good way of putting
You
it.
see
So
the
you're saying,
contradiction?
This is what they've got to do.
I'm
This
just
is what they've
trying-
got to do. Just make things up. Make things up. You just say words out your mouth. That when
No.
like Nathan
That's
just
not what
said,
he's saying. He's not saying they just make stuff up. He's saying that he takes a position that has a correction in it. Let's say it's the mercury switches. So you over exceed the mechanics of the gyro. It trips the mercury switch and then kicks in this system that corrects the gyro after the fact, right? As opposed to pendulous vanes that do it in real time. But ultimately speaking, these are corrective systems that work if you're in a maneuver that pushes the avionics beyond their limitations, therefore correction. They will take one example. Brian's saying use this word, this wording, in a vacuum. What he means by that is, in isolation, you can describe how a system works on its own, alone, away from everything that it does, and say that there's a correction. And then say that that correction's because of Earth curve. But it's completely isolated from everything in terms of the base principle of what a gyro does, how Earth's being measured, what it's principally got to do, how the mechanics has got to be exceeded for it to kick in. All of this stuff gets ignored. It just gets argued, as Brian nicely put it, in a vacuum.
Yeah, but it's worse than that, because when it comes to the pendulous vanes, their argument in the vacuum is that the pendulous vanes are correcting the zero on the attitude indicator to follow the curve, right? Making it a series of straight lines that are changing orientation, right, around a circle, basically, right? When it comes to the mercury switches system, they're claiming it's correcting away from curve. Both systems do the same thing, right? They're both correcting to horizontal. But in one instance, they're claiming with the pendulous vanes, they're claiming that system corrects for curve. The other system, they're claiming it corrects away from curve, back to horizontal. Do you understand what I mean? So when they're claiming that the pitch data is not raw data, they're because of the mercury, when it comes to data from a plane that has the mercury switches system, what they're claiming there is it's not showing you the curve, it's showing you horizontal because it's corrected away from curve. But then they'll turn around in the next breath and start telling you the pendulous vane system is correcting for curve, when both the pendulous vane system and the mercury switch system are designed for the exact same reason and to have the exact same outcome, which is horizontal. They're just two different systems. One system is powered through the movement of air and vacuum. That's what spins the gyro. The other system, it's electrically spun. It's like the electricity is directly electrically spun. I think it's a DC current or whatever. The point being is that they're arguing on one side of the fence for curve being accounted for and corrected to by one system, and the other side of the fence that it's correcting away from curve to show you a straight line in the pitch data. Do you understand what I mean? Yet both systems do the exact same thing. So their arguments are 180 degrees opposed from each other. Both, do you get what I mean?
Yeah, well, speaking of being 180 degrees opposed, they also both require to deviate from and back to a horizontal plane of reference. In other words, they also whistle past the axiomatic requirement for a surface level plane of reference to deviate from and correct to.
Yeah, because with the pendulous vanes, they're trying to claim that because they're weighted, it's a weighted system as well. Right? It's true. The movement of air vacuum in a weight. So they're claiming that because it's a weighted system, that this weight is like pointed towards the center of the globe, and as the plane flies, it changes because of a force of gravity, which doesn't exist. It will change the let's just say the apparent direction of down. Right, this is what they're trying to claim to hold it towards the center of the globe. But then when it comes to the mercury switches system, they're saying that the pitch data shows a straight line because the mercury switch system corrects away from the curve. Now, they're both pendulous vanes and the mercury switches system are both attaining and holding horizontal.
Exactly.
Right? But one horizontal is claimed to be the curve, right? And the other horizontal is claimed to be horizontal. Yet both systems are doing the exact same thing. They're taking an argument on one side of the fence and claiming one thing, and taking an argument, basically talking about the same exact thing, just a different system, on the other side of the fence and claiming completely different.
Well, that's the crux of it, then, isn't it, Brian? It's designed to maintain horizontal. Simple as that.
Yeah, all I'm pointing out is what they do. They forget about their previous argument. They're completely forgetting about their previous argument.
Yeah,
You know what I
I'm
mean?
not saying you, mate. Yeah. I'm just trying to get it down to the bare knuckles of it. The thing is, like, yeah, it's designed to remain rigid in space and maintain horizontal. What's that got to do with? Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to interject. You saved it by that first statement. It's not designed to maintain horizontal. You set it up to demonstrate the horizontal. But gyroscopes work by holding their position in free space. That may or may not be horizontal once you've set it up. This is the point, yeah? This is the mitigation that they'll try and bullshit you into. And subterfuge about how a gyro works. A gyro works by maintaining its position, however that's set up. Whether that happens to be horizontal, which would make sense if you're wanting to use it to define it, but the fundamental principles of a gyro is it maintains its position, whatever position that is.
Right, with you.
Yes, in other words, you've got to deny the axiomatic principle that's being taken from or utilised by way of the gyroscope itself. That's what it's utilised for. But in principle, to have this argument, Adam's saying, no, let's just stop a second. Let's not deny what gyros do. Right, Adam?
Yeah, you said it best. Look at what its axiomatic principle of a gyro is. Whether you're going to then use it to define horizontal, that's a secondary point. What do gyros do? Don't let them mug you off, because what they're going to try and do is mug you off and pretend that gyros don't hold the position in free space. They're affected by gravity.
Yes. Just exactly. I'm going to go on camera to say this. This is why they need Bob. Why was Bob being thanked repeatedly and profusely at nausea? Because gyros don't do what Bob is alleging them to do in his claim to be evidence of a drifting gyro. They don't do that. That's not what they're being used for. Axiomatically, it denies the principle of gyroscopic action. So no, but if you're going to cite somebody to suggest that you've got self-correcting gyros because they drift because of Earth's alleged curvature, then you're not going to find anybody who's going to tie their string to that, metaphorically speaking. Why would they? Especially if they're investigating death. They're going to know how gyros work. So you're going to need a patsy. You need somebody that does say that gyros drift. Yeah, that's Bob. So the tables have turned and our opponents now need to appeal to Bob Nodell to suggest that gyros defy their own axiomatic action. No, they don't do what Bob is alleging and drifting bullshit. But they'll be appealing to Bob moving forward. We've already had it start to happen. So suddenly we go from them saying, well, we know it's a globe, we checked, to we going, no, actually, when we checked what you thought you'd checked, it was measured flat. And now you need to allege that you've got proof in the form of Bob Nodell. That's your citation now. You're going to appeal to Bob. So the tables have very much turned. No, it's flat, we checked. And thanks, Bob, you've got curve and drift. Okay.
No, Nathan. That is not right. The Bob thing is a red herring because mechanical gyros can have mechanical drift called precession. That can happen, right? Bob was talking about a gyro that's using Lite. So there's no mechanical, and doesn't matter what Bob was talking about because they're not using attitude indicators. Now, we could take Bob's gyro and go through it. I could take it apart, no bother, and I have done in the past. I actually even made a video about it where I gave Bob thanks myself because he proved the opposite of what they needed him to prove. Long story short is that we're talking about attitude indicators. We're talking about the data for pitch. That has nothing to do with what Bob is talking about. So them bringing up Bob is a red herring, complete red herring. We're talking about mechanical gyro and the systems that are used to power them and correct them. There's two systems. One involves the pendulous vanes, right, for the vacuum system. The other one involves mercury switches for the electric system.
Yeah, I get
That's
it.
what we're talking about. So anything to do with Bob is not
hold
to
on,
do with the situation.
okay, fine. Yes, I understand that. We've just covered that. Yeah, but that isn't what I'm suggesting. When they have used Bob recently, and incorrectly so. I mean, the axis that Bob's alleging the 15 degrees an hour drift in his faulty gyro isn't the drift that they'd need to claim that you're traversing a spherical surface with the curvature falling away from the drift that they'd need to demonstrate in the gyro on a different axis. So it can't be appealed to that for that purpose anyway. It's incorrect to do it. It's a complete red herring. You are correct. And it's not that I don't understand that, or that we're discussing pendulous vanes and the mercury switches. I understand that too. But they'll throw everything at the wall and have. That's why I'm throwing it in now, in terms of us giving a nice, complete response, because people will come up against Bob being thrown into the mix and cited, because they need to allege a defiance of the axiomatic principle of what gyros do. So where they're going to reach for, well, they're going to reach for Bob and have.
Yeah, Captain Edgewise and the Almanator guy that are in Discord. That's who they appeal to. Bob,
Okay.
no doubt.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with it.
I realise.
There's no.
I understand that. And the axis of drift, that if it was even true, it isn't. But if Bob's drift axis was true, that isn't what you'd be proving a spherical Earth with in the gyroscopic action that doesn't move, that remains fixed in free space when planes traverse a flat surface and remain in level flight. That, you know, you're not getting the completely different axis to Bob's axis when they appeal to it. It wouldn't, you know, it'd never be appealable in that regard. So I get that, Brian.
Yeah,
And it
but
isn't mercury
the,
switches or pendulous vanes either, which is what you were saying. It's not what we're talking about currently. Well, it is, because they're throwing that in too.
No, because the problem is that what Bob was talking about, for a start, was fiber optic gyro. It was a fiber optic gyro, a 41 that he had used, or someone had used, and they don't use them in airplanes. They use them in gyro compasses on ships and stuff. They use ring laser gyros in airplanes. Now, if you want to talk about those, they are used in the inertial navigation system. There's three of them. For one, holds horizontal, the other one holds yaw, and the other one holds, one is for pitch, roll, and yaw. There's three of them. And they're creating an inertial reference frame for three accelerometers. Right? So if we're going to talk about light gyros, let's just say, or optical gyros as they're called, then and we're talking about airplanes, then we have to talk about the inertial navigation system, which completely annihilates them. But that's a secondary thing. What we're actually talking about is the attitude indicator and mechanical gyros. So then trying to go to that is, in my opinion, a desperation. Because even what Bob was talking about was he was talking about a drift. That has nothing to do with pitch. So they're going from arguing about pitch and the data to talking about the drift, and gone from mechanical gyros to a light gyro, and gone from in the air to being on the earth.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, now we're all on the same page. Yes, exactly. They're throwing everything at the wall. To what? Defy what a gyro does? We know what gyro does. That's how it's being used. Oh, you don't like that? Oh well, then you haven't got any measurements from the gyro. Oh, it's self-correcting because someone said so. No, that's not what gyros do. You have to like it. What? But Bob showed that it does do that. Oh, did he? So you're appealing to Bob? All very amusing. Yeah, Adam. Oh, he just dropped. Obviously got things to do, I guess. So, where's Eli? I was going to ask him about what he'd... Hold on, let's just see if Adam's got something to add. Adam, did you want to add something? Were you trying to...
Yeah, sorry, it was robot.
That's all right.
Terrible.
You dropped instead of
dropped.
unmuted, I assume.
Can you hear me?
Yes, good.
Just a point of what going off there, which is kind of how Bob got it through customs, as you were, how he to the community early on. And I was describing it to you the other day, the mitigation he bothered to spend time with me saying why this was significant. But again, you see, it's to deny the principles of a gyroscope. But what Bob wasn't trying to claim that this showed Earth rotation. Yeah, he was trying to claim this showed the rotation of the luminiferous ether.
Correct.
Yeah, he was so on board with it. This is why it kind of got through customs, because back then you don't have the hindsight to go, oh my God, look what he's actually setting up for the future. We didn't. I think the instigators of it probably did, as we can see by it being used now. But back then, you're just thinking, oh, it's a crazy old man thinking his faulty gyro's demonstrating that the ether rotates. And then lots of people got excited by that, didn't they? I remember Mike Kavanagh taking me aside saying, yeah, but the best thing, Ad, is if you go up the mountain, the rate of rotation changes. I'm thinking, wow. The rate that your gyro is out changes as you, yeah? That's the reality of what these guys were working with.
Yeah, it was the ether drift.
Yeah. Well, it's more faulty the higher I go. That's what I was being told, yeah? But that's not what I heard back then. But that's the reality of what was being pimped.
It's more faulty the higher I go.
Because
I love how we're looking at these things in retrospect. It's just amusing. At first, I think you picked up on it actually. There was a day about a week or two ago that I was just so bitter about it all. Like, I feel like I've wasted my time. And you're like, no, it's about the journey. It's about where you've got to because of all this nonsense. You're like, yeah, but now I can see where general member of the public can be potentially in, I don't know, as little as 10 years. And they can just say, yeah, we always knew it was flat. So it's measured, right? So you go, oh, so there's a reason we were chucked in this little pond. But we were in a pond and we never did anything. We never clawed ourselves out. And 10 years later, we can finally claw our way out. I've even given it as a metaphor of falling down a hill. Remember? Meeting anti-flatties at the bottom. Yeah? Well, here we are, 10 years later. Yeah, we can claw our way out of this hole. Yeah? The rest of the normie society aren't doing anything other than measuring Earth flat, are they?
No, because it's all they ever did. You can't measure something that doesn't exist. You're going to measure that which does exist. And that's the thing, you know. There won't be a measure because there is no globe. If there was, one would be measured.
Yeah. But there we go. It just feels like, you know, it did when I was a bit more bitter. Now Adam's saying things like he is. It just seems a lot more amusing because without that experience, I suppose you couldn't come up with quips like that. It's more faulty the higher I go. But you've got to have gone through it, right? You've got to have lived it to be able to put it in those terms.
yeah. Well, like I said, I admitted there. That's not how I interpreted it the first time. My mind full of curiosity and wanting to learn. Does this mean it? But no. Slow down, and with hindsight, you recognise. And that's stop being mugged off that a faulty gyro tells you something. That's not how they're designed to work. Yeah? If they did, imagine that. The higher you went with your gyro, the more faulty it went. Well, that'll be useful in an aeroplane, won't it? Do you get me? It's to imply that faulty measurements mean you can deduce something is beyond retarded, other than the deduction that your gyro's broke.
Yes, I'm glad you've summarised that because we don't actually often go through why we would so brazenly suggest that it's broken. It's like, well, did you service it? Don't need to. What it's used for defies what it's useful for. What's it being applied to? So I've got a different word. Well, applied to a nonsense waffle about an ether. That's what it's being applied to. Oh, God. I shouldn't have been so bitter a couple of weeks ago, right? I'll get over it. I'm very fickle. But it did, for a little bit, it felt like, what a waste of time. Do you not agree? No one's backing
It's
me
the
up.
frustration, isn't it? It's the frustration more than anything. Yeah? I mean, you can only show a horse to water, can't you? You can't actually make them drink. And we've got people here refusing it. Like when you're talking about Karen B yesterday. There's the water, Karen, drink it. And doesn't want it, doesn't want to use it. That's the frustration, like you're banging your head against the wall. But what you alluded to, it's been a righteous journey, love, because we had to learn all the hard shit, to do all of their bullshit inside out, upside down, yeah, to only get to the end of the journey, chapters 13 and 14, yeah, which is really towards the end of this, where we were able to stand up proudly and say the Earth is measured flat, first with celestial navigation, yeah, and then secondly with the pitch data. And that nails it for me. That's why it is frustrating, Because after all this time, we're showing people this, and they don't want it. It was the same with the black swan. We showed them So before we had fundamental proof that it was flat, we were just demonstrating that it cannot be a ball. Look at your delusions. They didn't want that either, did they, these mainstreamers?
Don't forget the Greeks, Adam. They measured it flat as well, mate.
No, you're right, Adam, but there is a way to get a horse to drink. You got to give him salt. And I feel like this show, everything that we put out, we're giving them salt. They're not getting thirsty.
Yeah, that's why I commended Nathan yesterday on it. Yeah, that's a great analogy, Neil. That's the salt they need. Yeah, because it is weird. It's there for you, Karen. Go and prove it to people instead of preaching it and asking them to just believe.
Maybe it's fear that it's just not enough. I mean, if you're concerned that saying Earth's measured flat's just not good enough, then there is no pleasing you.
Yeah, but I always wanted to make it complicated, right? That was
that's
the whole
what I'm
thing. Let's
saying.
make it as complicated as you can.
I think that's part of the game. What I'm calling the game is people saying, we've got to make this as complicated as possible. Right, how can we do that? Let's move forward, accepting that Earth
It's not
is
that as
measured
well. You've got
flat
the
for
journey,
both
like you're
sides.
saying. It's been hustle and bustle, going through lots of different things and conversations about all sorts involved with the heliocentric model. And now the bare knuckles is it's measured flat. So it's a sense of like it's over. No, it's not over, is it? But, it's like, oh, right, what do we all do now?
I like that bare knuckles example. So in
Yeah.
response to people saying, is that all you got? So metaphorically, boxing match, gloves are on, strikes are being thrown left and right, but we're right into round 13. What's going on? World seems weird, right? Nothing's happening. It's just an endless fight that doesn't seem to end. It doesn't end. And then at the end, just before the bell rings, one of the boxers takes off the gloves, punches the other guy in the face, and his face comes apart, and he looks back with a broken face and goes, "Is that all you got? Is that all you got? The measurements are flat." Yeah, that's all I got, yeah. Yeah, you've also got a broken face though, haven't you? Yeah, that's all I've got. I love it. It just seems utterly absurd.
Yeah.
The whole discussion's absurd.
Just for people who may encounter the red herring about Bob's gyro. Optical gyros are used in the inertial navigation system of an aircraft. The purpose of them, there's 3 of them. The purpose of them is to create an inertial plane of reference for the accelerometers. So the accelerometers can correctly record the journey. So why would optical gyros be drifting if they need to create, if they're used for, if optical gyros are drifting, right, something that happens within mechanical gyros. If optical gyros are drifting all over the place, like Bob's gyro, and at different altitude, they're drifting at different rates, right? Then how could they be used in an inertial navigation system to create the inertial plane of reference? It makes no sense. I know it's a ring laser gyros, it's ring laser gyros in an airplane, not fiber optic, but they're using fiber optic and ring laser using the same system, more or less. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can see the co-pilot being told by the pilot, right, we're now going up to 40,000 feet. Can you just twist the gyro's incorrectness-ometer up a touch as we gain altitude?
If only we had some black box data, pitch data, that would be good.
We have. It's like my favourite flat Earth proof. What are you talking about?
But it's stupid, Nathan, because they're trying to state that the reason that it shows a horizontal in the data is because it's corrected away from the curve by the mercury switches. But that would mean then why would the data from a plane with a pendulous vane system show the exact same thing then? if that's both the correct so-called.
If it was corrected by the mercury switches, why would you have a gyro in the fucking first place? Excuse my French. Yeah, you
Yeah,
just have
it's
mercury
stupid.
switches.
Yeah,
It's
just have the
nonsense.
switches and the cage.
It's a couple of pendulous veins, you know, and a hammer hung upside down from the rear view mirror of the pilot's cockpit, because that's what they're claiming is defining the level. Fundamentally, hang a pendulum from the centre of the cockpit and keep referencing that. Well, no. They're stabilising devices. That's all they are.
But who are you saying no
however
to?
the plane.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm just saying, who are you saying no to? You're saying no to an anti-flat earther in the pond, aren't you? Because, in principle, it does what it does. We don't need this discussion, do we, Adam? And I'm not saying it's all well and good, right? We're only having this discussion and exemplifying it between ourselves because we understand how this defies the current rhetoric of a ball, right? That's why we're here. I'm not going to deny our origins. But ultimately, if you were to communicate this with someone in normal society, they're not going to argue with you, and you're not going to have to say, no, it's not doing X, Y, and Z, because no one would expect it to do anything other than what a gyro does in normal society. Right, Adam?
Correct. If you went to the manufacturers, they wouldn't claim it's doing that. They'd claim exactly what it says on the tin with regards to gyros. It will maintain its position in free space. That's it. And this is how pathetic their argument is. That instead of dealing with the pitch data, they want to argue nonsensically about how gyros work and claim they self-correct to gravity. That's why I say no. No, it's not an argument. Even we used to mention it in the past. You're not having an argument with the flat earther now. You're having the argument with the people who make gyroscopes and define what they do. You're arguing with mainstream again to try and defend your ball position, which is like when you know you've won. When the baller has to go against the mainstream rhetoric to defend a ball, you know you've won.
Yes, and that's what it boils down to in terms of every single assertion of Earth measurement. You're going to have to go against mainstream rhetoric. Now, I'm glad you're here, Adam. It's a phraseology you can only put into words if you've got a ghostwriter.
Yeah, they did the same thing with dip, didn't they? Skip past the angle and let's talk about dip.
Yeah. Let's talk about some correction to surface level. You're like, what? Why? Oh, because then we can make it seem like there's an argument to be had about Earth curve that hadn't been measured in these measurements. Well, what are we doing? We're okay, we find dip. What are we doing first? We've got to measure our height off the surface level first. We've got to have an altitude. Go ahead, Brian.
Sorry, I was just saying what was funny about the whole dip thing was that when I was pushing the dip thing back some years ago, they didn't want to talk about that. They wanted to talk about the aviation segment, right? Thinking that just created a vertical, not realizing that vertical must be 90 degrees to horizontal. So that is removing the dip, any need for dip, because you're creating an exact horizontal in the air that has to be parallel to mean sea level. So they went from having an issue with dip to the aviation sextant, then having an issue with that when it was explained to them, back to dip. Do you know what I mean? They're never happy. They're always trying to go from one thing to another. As I said earlier, they have make an argument in a vacuum. And then it opposes a different argument they were making 10 minutes ago. Their arguments never line up. They're always contradicting each other.
Yes. Well, not each other. Well, it depends, because there might be somebody who's less informed on how you need to dodge these subject matters within the anti-flat earth communities. But just defying what things principally do, and what things principally do is not something you have to argue with normal people with. Like I say, I explained this earlier with the example with my sister. I was expecting a bit of a battle. Like, my sister's a normie. She's not into any of this stuff. But when it came to talking about what she trained in to get out on the seas in her boats with her husband, you're like, I didn't get any pushback. She just agreed. You're like, what's going on? In fact, it wasn't quite like that. I was arguing with her current husband, right? So I'm arguing with him, and there's massive pushback until she steps in and is like, no, that is how it's done. You're like, what? So if you've got somebody that's actually dealing with Earth measurement, they're never going to push back against stuff that's obviously, observably, measurably, axiomatically flat. Gyroscopic motion's no different. No normie's going to ever argue with this stuff like an anti-flatty would.
Exactly. Look, I just pulled the video up. Angles on a sphere at work.
But just to point out something, what I've noticed, Nathan, is via Google and the AI systems and all that are used via Google and whatever else. What they're doing is more and more and more, when you ask it a question and they need to come up with some supposed learned video or evidence that, let's just say, that gravity is a force or whatever rubbish like that, right? Whatever lie like that it's trying to promote. What video is turning up? What websites turn up? It's all the anti-flat earther stuff. It's McEwen stuff, Fight the Flat Earth. It's flatearth.ws. So it's all a lot of nonsense that's wrong. It's all this stuff turns up. So when it comes to you're saying no ordinary person is going to argue that, but Google is presenting their stuff to the ordinary person. They're not presenting Brian Cox anymore. They stopped doing that a long while back. Now it's presenting McEwen. You understand the problem there? Now, it may not be much of a problem because the ordinary everyday person is going to, as soon as they dig, as QE would say, for Micah deep, they would find out that this person is not even linking the videos that they're claiming to be responding to in their own description. And when the person finds that video, it turns out that it was not what this person was making it out to be, blah, blah, blah. But Google is relying upon people's laziness. So the Google AI systems is promoting, like, here's a video from Fight the Flat Earth or from Simon Dan or whoever, and this explains why gravity is a force, just as an example, right? Even though it's not officially since 1915, it hasn't been officially within their paradigm. But you have a video from Simon Dan talking about how it is. So they're not even showing Veritasium now, right? Because that would be giving the truth within their paradigm. They're showing Simon Dan to the average person, and that's what's getting promoted. Yeah.
But I don't know if you say to the normal person. I think I agree with everything to the last three words, right? When you say what they're showing the normal person, now they can still get away with presenting normies with Veritasium, but the people who are inquisitive of this subject are already halfway rolling down the hill, metaphorically speaking. They'll be presented Simon Dan.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And look, it could be a case of when I ask the question, because of me and my position and my IP address, I'm being given an answer from Grok AI or whoever that is not the same answer as some other person who's not involved in all this in Minnesota would get, right? For example. Maybe that's the case. Now, that has been the case with me in the past, where I've had to actually ask other people to go get things for me, because when I Google it, I get a load of rubbish. I don't get the links I'm looking for. Now, that's very likely happening too. So when I Google it, I get Simon Dan. That's who they give me. Maybe they're giving Joe Hamburg or someone else. I don't know. But maybe so. Or maybe they're being given the same rubbish as me. I don't know. People are lazy. They ask a question, they get an answer from Google, and they just go, okay, that's the answer. That's what they're looking for. They're betting on people being lazy. That's what Google is betting on. So their AI can give them any old rubbish and any old noise. And people will go, they'll see that the AI is lying to them about a completely different subject, but when it comes to whether gravity is a force or not, they just accept. Because of gravity, and everyone knows that's real, and everyone knows it's a force, and that's what will go through people's heads. So they won't even bother investigating the situation. So it's a deeper, you know what I mean? So to even investigate whether or not gravity even is a force officially these days, you have to, as a normal person, you'd have to go through a lot of layers of rubbish to get to there. Most people aren't ever going to do that. So that's why they can present them Simon Dan and not Veritasium and get away with it.
Yeah, but once again, you see, the anti-flat earther will come into this arena and tell you it is a force.
Yeah, that's what Simon Dan will be telling his audience. When they share his video, the average everyday Some everyday person asks that question to Google, and they get presented with Simon Dan, and they just accept whatever Simon Dan says, even though what he says, or whoever, McToon, whoever it is, will be incorrect. They will accept that as just truth.
Well, actually, I just asked Grok, and Grok said, you and your force has been ruined. Quoting Simon Dan, I think it's got confused or something. Right, I'm going to round out. So with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.